All right. Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya coming in the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. But before I get started, as always, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and whom I learned this truth from. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom. That's another Saturday out prophesying against this wicked kingdom, Babylon the Great, which you people know is the United States of America. And what I'll be going into with this lesson is the destruction, the downfall of the United States of America, which is quickly coming. And if you've got that spiritual eyesight, you can clearly see that's the case. This place is on the decline on damn near every level, morally, economically, militarily. The list goes on and on. And it's funny. You got a gazebo over there where they usually have parties going on and stuff like that. And they look like Edomites over there. I think I may have seen a few Northern Kingdom, but they got some Edomites over there setting up the balloons, looking like they about to have a birthday party. Well, hey, the Most High is about to put an end to this party of the United States of America and an end to the rulership of you Edomites, whom are known as these so-called white people today. But I'm going to start it off in Mark chapter 3. I'm going to read verses 24 to 25. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Point blank, period. Any kingdom that has ever been divided against itself internally has always collapsed. Just look at the kingdom of Israel in the past. You had that separation between the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And then what eventually happened? The entire kingdom fell as a whole, and we went into captivity, which we're in until this very day. But we're at the end of our captivity. You have the elect of the nation of Israel waking back up, the house of David coming together, and as it says, I believe in Amos, the breaches being closed, the elect of the northern and the southern kingdom coming back together to make that whole kingdom of Yasharallah. We're getting stronger, and the kingdom of heaven is nigh at hand. But at the same time, this kingdom of Esau Edoms globally, but as for now, we're dealing with the United States of America, is divided on every level. Edomite men are against Edomite women with MGTOW versus feminism. You've got conservative or Republican Edomites against Edomites that are liberal or Democrat. So-called, that being the key word, so-called straight Edomites against Edomites in the alphabet group beginning with LG. Religious Edomites against atheistic Edomites. Class warfare with the average Joe and poor Edomites against these richer Edomites. Generationally with the Generation Z and the millennials going against the boomers. They had that saying a couple of months ago called "Okay Boomer," where it was like anything a Edomite who was in the baby boomer generation, anything they'd say about the economy, or oh, you younger kids, you just don't get it, you need to do this, that, or the other. They would have that condescending term, "Okay boomer," like you're so out of touch, you don't understand what's going on. And that's the case. Let's be real. These boomers, they grew up at a time when America's economy was strong, and by their malfeasance and mishandling of the economy and just the morals of this society, that's led to their children and grandchildren being in the situation that they're in right now. So generational divides. And then of course you've got, we'll say your patriot militia type Edomites against Edomites in the government. Again, this kingdom is clearly divided on every level. And as Yahweh Shai said in Mark chapter 3 verse 24, if a kingdom be divided, that kingdom will not and cannot stand. We're living in the twilight hours, the last seconds of the rulership of these Edomites, primarily from the United States of America, which is that main power center right now. And all these other, and not just is these Edomites divided internally in the U.S., but you've got their allies starting to look sideways at them as well. They're seeing that following after the policies of the United States of America has really put them in a bad situation. Just recently, you had the president of South Korea. He was caught off mic saying, pretty much President Biden and those in Congress are idiots if they don't vote on these particular measures. Just speaking disparagingly against these Edomites, which we can read about in the book of Obadiah. Get that real quick. This is Obadiah chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 1 and jump around a bit. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. These other heathen nations are starting to look at you Edomites, and especially you Edomites in America, as the root cause of a lot of the problems taking place on the earth. They're seeing that when you go to these different nations and overthrow their sovereign leaders and set up your puppet governments, what comes from it? Feminism, their women getting out of order, which just turns them into whores, which what does that lead to? Broken homes, broken families, which leads to their daughters becoming whores and their sons becoming goons out here. More often than not, sodomites, democracy, capitalism, just everything wrong with society that America produces. When they go over and push their ways onto these other nations, and that turns them nations into mini Babylon, baby Babylons, baby whorehouses, and these nations are sick of it. And again, like I just said, you had the president of South Korea make disparaging remarks against President Biden and against those in the Congress. And one quote I'll never forget is Hugo Chavez, the former president of Venezuela. He was at one of those UN meetings, and he said, if you want to know where the root cause of all the problems on the planet come from, just look at people with blonde hair and blue eyes and business suits, referring to you Edomites, and specifically referring to you Edomites in America, because America has always been trying to get their hands into Venezuela and take advantage of that nation and its resources like they've done to a lot of these Central and South American countries. But as I said, thou art greatly despised. But I'll keep going. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwelleth in the clefts of the rock. And the most proudest people on the face of the earth are these American Edomites. Just look at how they act. Oh, these are the colors that never run. The home of the brave. The home of the free. The brave. Who gives a fuck? It's all bullshit propaganda anyway. Oh, America. All this stuff they like to say. America's never gonna go down. The U.S. dollar's never gonna collapse. And we just got it like that. I remember I was reading what was it? Yeah, I think it was a book called Fast Food Inc. It was either Fast Food Inc. or it was a World War II memoir I was reading. But it after they had something in the Pacific when America was at war against Japan called the Battle of Iwo Jima. And one of the most famous pictures to come out of World War II was that image where you see all those U.S. Marines hoisting up the American flag. Well, after that event took place, one of the commanders of the Marines during that time said, hey, due to us taking Iwo Jima, and from this picture you just took right here, that guarantees that the Marine Corps is going to last for another 500 years. Just that's a proud statement to make. But what does it say in Psalms 49? They name the places after themselves, and they think that their houses shall continue on forever. Hey, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. You dwell in a lofty and high place, mentally, and also that can be symbolic for these skyscrapers out here, because they look like because we know that the Edomites are natural cave dwellers, Caucasians. They lived in Mount Petra, Mount Seir. That was their first dwelling place, which were the mountains. Then after they fell, after the pagan Roman Empire fell, and they were run out of the land, they were run into the Caucasus Mountains where they were living as cavemen. So they're used to living in those high areas, whose habitation is high, and saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? America's gonna last forever. The Marine Corps is gonna last another 500 years. These are the colors that never run. Make America great again. Build back better. What did Biden just say a couple of months ago? America's back. We're gonna ride off into the sunset. Yeah, right. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and what nation of people's symbol has been the eagle throughout human history? The Roman Empire, the Nazis, good old US of A, Esau, Edom. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, so-called going to the moon, the moon landing, which, as it said in Job 9 verse 24, the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. Not space or the moon, just the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. The farthest these Edomites have ever been is in Leo, low Earth orbit, low orbit space, where they've got these satellites and these space stations and stuff like that. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, and regardless of the fact that the earth has just been given into the hands of the wicked and not the moon, who pushed that whole space exploration and who was so-called the first going into space? These Edomites. In commemoration of the so-called moon landing, they came out with a coin with an eagle on it in the stars, literally in the stars on top of the moon. Hey, them in space. Thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. And a beautiful point that I've heard Apostle Tahar make on several occasions is that back in the 60s, when these Edomites said they so-called went to the moon, what did you see happen? That's when Esau's power really started to decline. You had the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, and all that, which led to a further breaking down of the family structure. Feminism really started getting its hold into things. There's these social welfare programs, which added more taxes and more of a burden to the American citizen. And then fast forward to today, to where this country is on the decline on every level. Economically, the UK government just admitted that they're in a recession. They're saying Germany's next. And you've got, what's his name, Jerome Powell, whoever's the head of the Federal Reserve, saying, look, a recession is inevitable at this point. Expect inflation, which is going to go to hyperinflation. The Shabbat video I did last night, I was going into how the supply chain disruptions in the U.S. are already affecting and just going to more affect food production in this country. So expect to see more empty shelves at these different stores like your Walmarts and Rouse's and Kroger's and all that. U.S. farmers are going through it with adverse weather events that are keeping them from planting a sufficient amount of crops to bring to these stores, as well as high diesel prices, keeping them from planting a sufficient amount of crops. Look at this country, these Edomites' birth rates are on decline, which is really why they repealed Roe v. Wade, because these Edomites' numbers, due to these so-called white women getting deleting their children, all that, doing that at such a high number that's leading to their numbers declining. They're trying to build back up their numbers. This place is clearly declined morally, even though these Edomites were never a moral people. Back in the past, they tried to have some semblance of a righteous society, but now it's do as thou wilt. Of course, you got the alphabet group beginning with LG out here, pushing for women to be strong and independent and delete your children. They got this, and our people, the 2/3, the wicked of our people in this country, are no goddamn better than these American Edomites. They're following just after them. They got a new song out here called BDF, Baby Daddy Free, where this nigga woman is talking about how she's baby daddy free and she's got murder on her mind, getting rid of her children. Just complete madness. But this is what this society pushes. It doesn't push a lifestyle, it pushes a death style. Be a proud, arrogant, selfish fucking scumbag. Get it how you live. It's In my body, my choice, I do as I feel. All that. That's a moral decline in society. And another thing, Apostle Gabar said this: if you want to see the state of a nation, just look at the state of their women. And our women clearly finished. You so-called the majority, because you do have the sincere Akwath or sisters out there, but the majority of our women out there, you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American women, you're through, and you deserve to be put to death and destroyed, which is quickly coming. But these Edomite women, they're whores and scallywags too. But again, this place is declining morally. It's becoming much more atheistic. We could be here all day just talking about that. But as I said, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. So the Most High is bringing down Esau Edom society globally, dividing it. But for this lesson, we're dealing with the United States of America being divided, and it shall fall. But now I'm going to jump to Isaiah 47. I'm going to start at verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. That virgin daughter of Babylon is speaking of the United States of America, because Babylon and Esau, or Edom, are synonymous in the scriptures. I'm going to get that real quick. This is Psalms 137. I'm going to start at verse 7. Remember, O Yahweh, the children of Edom, in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof. And that's talking about the times of the Neo-Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. Those Edomites back then had a hand in helping the Neo-Babylonians overthrow the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. But listen to this: O daughter of Babylon, that virgin daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee, as thou hast served us. So right there, it's showing that the daughter of Babylon is synonymous with Edom. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground. And Babylon, or Babel in the Hebrew, means confusion by mixture. And the United States of America is the most confused nation on the face of the earth. A man can be a woman, a boy can be a girl, and you can be a dog if you want to. You can marry a bridge. Women are equal to men. Just everything is ass goddamn backwards in this society. Sit on the ground, and to sit in the dust means to sit in confusion. Hey, going back to Babylon, meaning confusion. And this place is clearly sitting in a state of confusion right now. Nothing is working for this country anymore. Everybody's waking up to the fact that mainstream media is nothing more than an arm of the elites to push their propaganda out there. So people are disregarding Fox and CNN. People are seeing that their politicians and these different heads of state are lying to them, and that they can't believe them either. They take what they say as a grain of salt. The list goes on and on. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. This used to be the place that was considered the land whose streets were paved with gold, the American dream, where you can come to make all your dreams come true. But a lot of these nations are waking up to the fact that that the American dream was a nightmare. When you come here, you get taxed out of the ass. It's just not working out for them. You've got these nations looking down on the U.S. and saying, look, we don't agree with this democracy or this capitalism anymore. We don't agree with feminism. Look at what it's doing to our people. Over in China, they're in their gym programs and a lot of other programs, they're making sure that they keep their boys from not being all soft and delicate like what's pushed over here in America, that metrosexual lifestyle. And then again, that South Korean president speaking disparagingly against President Biden and against those in the Congress, saying they'd be idiots if they didn't vote for these measures here. I was trying to think of some examples, and you kind of lose track, but hey, they're just coming to my mind now. You had one of the heads of Iran, when they were taking down all those statues of those American icons around that time during the George Floyd protests, and he had a lot of Americans complaining about it. He said, America is just angry. Well, it was during something dealing with where the U.S. was talking shit against Iran. It might have been during the Iranian nuclear deal, during President Trump's term when he pulled out of it. One of those heads of state in Iran said, America's just mad at us because when you look at our history and our culture, it's vast. Speaking of the Persian Empire and stuff like that, a rich culture. But when you look at American history, it's nothing more than glorification of slave owners, which is what all those statues were. Slave owners, rapists, thieves, and scumbags. This nation no more being looked at as tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind mill, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yet thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. And the thigh is being uncovered. The dress is being lifted up, so to speak, of this nation and of all its wicked doings. And first and foremost, by the men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS, beginning with their apostles and elders from One West. We've been out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up these video epistles, and just going through all the wickedness that this country has committed in the past and continues to commit today. And we're able to filter it through the scriptures just to show that you truly are Babylon, and you Edomites are the wicked that the scriptures speak of, that has turned this planet into a wilderness. And then because of the vibration and the spirit that the prophets have been pushing out, that's causing a lot of these whistleblowers to come out and reveal the nastiness of what you Americans do. How you make treaties with different countries just so that when you get what you want, you completely throw them under the bus. An example of that being Saddam Hussein. Hey, America, you've got pictures of Donald Rumsfeld back in the 90s with Saddam Hussein being buddy-buddy with him. When Iraq went to war against Iran during the 80s, they were allies with Saddam Hussein. But then, when Saddam Hussein wanted to get his country's reliance off the dollar and go to a gold-backed currency, what had to happen? A Desert Storm, and then the war in Iraq, just to completely overthrow his regime and then set up a crony system, which that's just another failed country right now. And then look at what happened all throughout Central and South America in the 20th century, the so-called 1900s. These Edomites went over to those countries, and I talked about this in a previous lesson, talking about that book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I'd recommend you brothers go read about. Say a Central or South American country was rich in petroleum or rubber or bananas, because they did have something called the Banana Wars back in the 30s, which you should look up. They were rich in resources. America would send some representatives down, the economic hitmen, to say, look, to these leaders, we'll take care of you. We'll take care of you, your loved ones, and those in your immediate circle. Just let us send in these American corporations to, handle the resources for you. Which those leaders that took the deal, these American companies would move on to native lands and completely just strip mine those lands and set up their refineries and other equipment to suck that land of its resources. And then in a lot of cases, the natives that were living on those lands, who were Israelites, since their livelihood, since they lived off of the forest or lived in small communities, were destroyed, a lot of those women had to turn to prostitution and go to these different camps that were set up with these foreign workers working those refineries. And a lot of them got raped and killed and thrown in a ditch. The men had to turn to crime because they didn't have any livelihoods. A lot of what you see in the United States of America proper with the Southern Kingdom. You have all these things set in place to keep our people on the bottom. First fired, last hired. A lot of Jakes just live in destitute situations to where they have to turn to crime, and then when they go to jail, they get that criminal record, so that bars them from getting a lot of jobs or even being able to get a passport. The cycle just repeats itself. We can't forget the war on drugs, where that was linked with the Sandinistas versus the Contras, that war going on in Central America, to where in order for the U.S. government to, I can't remember which side they were fighting on I think they were fighting on the side of the Sandinistas. They would send the Sandinistas weapons in return for the Sandinistas sending them cocaine and other drugs into the U.S. And then in turn, they put those drugs into so-called African American communities. That's where the crack era really kicked off. And then what would that lead to? An uptick in crime and a further building up of the prison industrial complex, to where those Jakes with low opportunities that were selling drugs and being gangbangers would be sent to jail and be cheap prison labor, building a lot of cheap goods in these prisons for these corporations that they would make money off of. Just a complete and wicked system. And the Most High is again lifted up that skirt and made the leg bare through his prophets first and foremost, and then these whistleblowers and alternative media out here. And where it says, I will take vengeance and I will not meet thee as a man, that's speaking of Yahawashi Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ. When Yahawashi came on the scene over 2,000 years ago in the ancient pagan Edomite Roman Empire, he came as a lamb for the slaughter. He came as a man, and just preaching the word, and he was crucified. But with his second coming, he's not coming as a man. He's coming as that angelic force to just completely run roughshod over you Edomites and you heathens, but chiefly you Edomites. And he's got a bone to pick with the United States of America, because this is Rome all over again in the reincarnation. We can get that real quick in Isaiah 63. This is Isaiah 63. I'm going to start at verse 1. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? And Basra was an ancient chief city of the Edomites, and that can be interchangeable with the United States of America too, because this is the chief city of the Edomites. This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength, I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thine garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat, symbolic of the mass death and destruction Yahawashi is bringing to you Edomites, especially in the United States of America, because of course, say you're wearing a white clothing and you're making grapes and getting that big vat with the grapes and you're stomping on it, it looks like you're covered in blood from all that grape juice. I have trodden the winepress alone, and for the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And that day of vengeance is quickly coming upon us, and the year of the redeemed, the elect of the nation of Israel, where Yahawashi is going to crack those clouds and beam up the elect on the chariots, and then run roughshod with these heathen nations, specifically these Edomites. I will not meet thee as a man. As for our Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. These nations are waking up to the fact that this country was built off of lies and deception, and that these Edomites in America say one thing, but they do something completely opposite. Look at what happened with Muammar Gaddafi. He was looking to make a gold-backed dinar to get those African nations off of their dependence on the U.S. dollar, and then NATO And these European nations and the US said, look, we'll take these sanctions off of your country and kind of leave you alone. We just want you to stop with your nuclear program. And you know what? Gaddafi fell for the okie doke and scrapped his nuclear program. And then what happened? You had a NATO and US air campaign in Libya. And that led to the Libyan civil war, where a lot of these so-called freedom fighters fighting against Gaddafi's government were nothing more than puppets set up by the US and Europe. Same with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, a proxy force to overthrow his government and keep him from releasing that gold-backed dinar. And now when you look at Libya, it's just another failed state with a bunch of different groups of people fighting each other to gain control of what's left. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand, and thou didst shew them no mercy. That's the main reason the Most High is bringing down the United States of America, Babylon the Great, because of the way you treated the apple of his eye, the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Here you had the times of slavery, where all manners of horrors were afflicted upon the southern kingdom, such as buck breaking, where a strong so-called Negro slave, a Judite slave, and he was bucking up to the master, and was being being a bad example to the rest of the slaves, showing you shouldn't be afraid of these slave owners, these Edomites. So what did they do? The master of the plantation and some of his other goons got this strong Jake and broke him down. They sodomized him. You Edomites, you would rape an Israelite slave's wife and children, whether in front of them or not in front of them. The list goes on and on. And then after slavery, you had the Reconstruction era, which saw the birth of the KKK, or the Ku Klux Klan, where they would continue to terrorize these jakes that were just freely let off of these plantations. Salakia. A little cottonmouth around here, but you had the Reconstruction era, where you had a lot of these vigilante groups like the KKK harass the newly freed Israelite slaves, and then new laws were put into place to pretty much keep Jake in servitude. You had the Black Code laws. We're trying to think of some examples from what I remember. There was one to where if a former slave was using equipment or just got new land and he couldn't upkeep it or pay back his slave owner for the tools that he got, then the slave owner, his former slave owner would be able to take their children from him as a reimbursement. And then you had, of course, the 13th Amendment, Emancipation Proclamation, which emancipation just meant a transfer from one owner to another, which is exactly what it was. The slaves were transferred from the plantation owners over to the U.S. government. And within the 13th Amendment, it abolished slavery, but there was one exception, one clause to it. If somebody was put into prison, then they would still be subject to being treated as a slave. And then you had the Black Code laws and the Jim Crow laws, which put Jake in a lot of hard circumstances out here to where they would be sent to prison. And then what? Back into slave labor, the precursor to the prison industrial complex, which you see today. And then let's deal with the Northern Kingdom, what you did to the so-called Native Americans here. When you came over here, you stole their lands from them, gave them smallpox and other diseases to kill them off, and pushed them onto reservations. And then the so-called Hispanic tribes in Central and South America, you did the same thing to them. You went into their lands, stole their resources, killed their people. I just gave some examples with the Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And the list goes on and on. And so all the way like that until this very day. You've got these cops that gun down our people in the streets like animals. You put Planned Parenthood into our neighborhoods to advocate for our women to get abortions, though the Most High's put a monkey wrench in that. You give us poisonous food and water to eat and drink, and you give us rap and thug and hip-hop culture, gangster rap, to take us away from our identity and from our power. Oh, you're not Israelites, you a OG, you a real nigga, you a thought, you a bad bitch. All this just disgusting degeneracy. And who owns, while you've got Jake rapping and singing these songs, who are the ghostwriters for the lyrics, and who own these different rap labels? Those gutter rats, those Amalekite Edomites, those Jewish people who are Edomites. And never forget, as it said, I was wroth with my people and have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. You didn't take down the nation of Israel out of your own strength. It was through the will of the Most High as punishment towards us for going down. We can naturally see that the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American is stronger than the average so-called white or Edomite person out here. Physically, just look at sports, and mentally too. When you put a Jake in a top field against the Edomite in that same top field, Jake eclipses them. And a lot of these different inventions out here that Edomites take credit for were go back to a Jake. Air conditioning, for example, the filament in the light bulb that Thomas Edison used, a so-called Negro came out with that and actually went to court and won against Thomas Edison for stealing his ideas. Roller coasters, that goes back to Jake. It was a Jake that was laid the groundwork for the creation of computers and cell phones. All you got to do is just go dig deep into the history of these different creations, and it goes back to an Israelite. But what? We're in captivity, so these Edomites took credit for it. Thou didst shew them no mercy, upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. And thou saidst, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. I am, and there is none else. The United States will never go down. It's going to be a nation that lasts forever. Neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. And we can see that the United States of America is dwelling carelessly. Here we have these different nations across the world gearing up for World War III and threatening the use of nuclear weapons. You had Dmitry Medvedev, one of those higher ups in the Russian government, quote Revelation 9 verse 18, saying that those in the West, hey, they're not going to be living comfortably for too much longer. Their places and the concrete of their streets are going to melt with heat, talking about the use of nuclear weapons. You had President Putin just say recently that, look, we've got these nukes and we're not afraid to use them against anybody that comes against us. You've just got these nations gearing up for war, but just look at the average American out here. They're worried about the next concert that's coming up, the next event or vacation they're going on, not concerned with the food shortages, World War III, or all these other things that are coming to place out here. They just want to think that everything's going to go back to normal and they're going to be able to live at peace. Go and ask, and you can ask Israelites too, which they don't know what the fuck's going on, but your average American out here, ask them about anything that's important, and they're not going to know what's going on. Oh, there's a bunch of brothers have been doing videos lately on those little YouTube videos where a guy goes up and asks your average American basic questions like how many seasons are there, Where is the Great Wall of China located in? Stuff like that. What are the names of the months in order? And your average Gen Z American couldn't get any of it right. Where was the Great Wall of China located? Some chick said, oh, Japanese. That speaks for itself. That's your average retarded American out here. They're nothing more than slaves going them to the corporate system, to consumerism. All they know how to do is buy the next pair of sneakers and name all the Kardashians. Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. And in a moment, in a day, what would cause a great loss of life and children? Nuclear destruction, which is what's going to take out the United States of America. These different nations, not just Russia's enemies like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, but also America's allies like Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations, which are going to turn against her at some point during World War III and ally themselves with nations like Russia. They're all together going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America and turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards, causing that loss of life and loss of children in a moment, in a day, in 1 hour, as it says in Revelation chapter 18. Which is where we're going to go to right now. Slovakia. Beautiful day out here today. But all this nice scenery is going to get it's going to be more fuel for the fire when these nuclear missiles hit this place. But this is Revelation chapter 18. I'm going to start at verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great, that virgin daughter of Babylon, the United States of America, is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. And that's going into the state of the former United States of America after those nuclear missiles turn this place into a desolate wasteland. Only desert creatures are going to dwell here. Scorpions, snakes, vultures, creatures like that. Man, woman, or child will never set foot on this place ever again after those nuclear missiles wipe this place off the face of the earth. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And that isn't talking about a bottle of red wine or Chardonnay or anything like that. This is talking about philosophies, because in the scriptures, wines can be symbolic for philosophies, and I'll get a quick precept for that. This is Isaiah 29, verse 9. Stay yourselves and wonder. Cry ye out and cry. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. For Yahweh hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and hath closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers hath he covered. And that's talking about the nation of Israel. That's talking about the Most High taking away understanding and discernment from the nation of Israel in the past and today as well. But as it said, they are drunk, but not with strong drink or wine. They've been put into a deep sleep. They've been made drunken off of a misunderstanding under different philosophies out here, different ideas, which these nations have been made drunk off of that Babylon gin and juice. Feminism, capitalism, the alphabet group beginning with LG, democracy, all these different wines or philosophies which have bugged these people out here. And that word fornication, when you go into the Strongs, it's porneia, and it means illicit, lewd sexual activities, bestiality, lesbianism, Moism, all that, which the United States of America is the #1 nation that pushes that onto the rest of the planet. In June, what did you just have? Pride Month. And then, man, I'm gonna probably do a video on it. I saw a clip from this rap song by this trans former Jake, who was talking about how the boys like the tranny body, they like the wee, they want to look at me. This is what you get with Esau, Edom, and rulership, and these different philosophies he's putting out here, just making the people drunk off of it. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And this is another indicator to show that the United States of America is Babylon. These different nations have become rich off of the U.S. because this is the #1 consumer nation on the face of the earth. These different nations, look at China for instance, they get these raw materials and make these cheap goods and make a lot of money by sending them to the United States of America, along with these different nations. Verse 4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, speaking of the elect of the nation of Israel right now, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues. And that can be twofold, coming out of this place spiritually, not following after the ways of Babylon, not celebrating these holidays, your birthdays, eating pork, shaving your face, and just believing in that American dream. Now, of course, you got to make your daily bread. I'm not telling you to quit your job or talk shit to your boss on the job, or just go up to random Edomites on the street and say, hey, you're Edomite, going into slavery and getting in a fight with them or anything like that. No, you got to make your daily bread. But besides that, you should be doing what you can to take yourself out of this place, not dealing around heathens, stuff like that. And on the other hand, talking about us coming out of this place by getting beamed up onto the chariots when those nuclear missiles hit this place and burn it up. That ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. The wickedness of this place has reached unto the heavens. And just like Sodom and Gomorrah for its wickedness, the Most High is about to wipe this place off the face of the earth with fire and brimstone, though this time it's going to be of the nuclear variety. And this place needs to go. It's just, if this place were allowed to last, let's say another 20, 50 years, it would just be madness out here. Now they're trying to say that pedophilia is a normal sexual preference to have, that they're called, I don't even remember the term, but they're pretty much just saying that that's just another sexual preference. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have relations with underage children. If the society were allowed to persist, that'd become a normal everyday occurrence out here. You see grown-ass men holding hands with little children out here, and they ain't holding hands with them to bring them to Chuck E. Cheese. And a brother I know, he's been over to Thailand, and he told me over there, so-called white men, Edomite men, freely walk around holding hands with little Thai boys over there, because the Edomite man is a natural sodomite. He's a natural child molester and a pedophile. And then also another thing I saw is they're coming with baby-shaped insertables, as I'll call them, that transformer women can stick up their anus and then defecate out to simulate what it feels like to give birth. If that's a society that if that's a society that doesn't need to be destroyed, then shit, I don't know what is. Verse 6, reward her, even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. So when these American Edomites are destroyed, because every single American Edomite is going to be destroyed when this place is hit with those nuclear missiles, when they're reborn in the kingdom of heaven, along with their other Edomite brothers and sisters that are either reborn, that were killed in these other Edomite countries, or that actually survived to go straight into slavery, hey, we're going to do double unto them as they did unto us on this side. As it says in Revelation chapter 13, verses 9 to 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. We're going to put you Edomites into slavery, and you're going to receive a double portion as to what we received on this side. Hey, we're going to, you fed our children to alligators, we're going to feed your children to crocodiles. It says back in that Psalms 139, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that dasheth thy little ones against the stones. It's not going to be a pretty sight for you Edomites when you go into slavery, but there is a caveat. We're going to do things righteously by the laws, statutes, and commandments. There's going to be no buck breaking or raping a man's wife and children in front of him. Hey, if we want your wife, we're going to put you to death and take your wife and make her a concubine. It's as simple as that. And it's much needed and much deserved. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen. I am no widow. I shall see no sorrow. I shall not see the loss of children. I am. There is none other beside me, the city that dwelleth carelessly. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, in a moment of the day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, nuclear fire, for strong is the Lord Yahweh, who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. And these nations aren't going to be sad at America being destroyed because they generally loved America. They loved democracy. They loved feminism. They loved all that bullshit. They're going to be sad because they're no longer going to be making money off of this nation. Because remember, as it said a couple of verses above, that these nations lived deliciously and committed fornication with this whore Babylon, and her merchants waxed rich by selling their goods to this place. Shit, I wish I could get it on camera. It's a spirit. Behind the camera, you've got this little rock looking structure that serves as a waterfall, and you got a group of Edomite kids walking on the rocks right now. Hey, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. But yeah, as it clearly said, America is going to be destroyed by fire, nuclear fire. 200 million nuclear missiles are going to hit this place and turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And it's not just going to be America's enemies that are going to shoot those nukes, but her own allies are going to turn against her as well. Because even America's own allies are getting sick of constantly being bullied around by the U.S. and feeling the blowback by all these different actions that the U.S. takes. Just look at the refugee crisis from Libya, the Libyan civil war, the Syrian civil war, and the war in Afghanistan. You had some refugees, but a paltry amount come to America. But where did the majority of those refugees go when those wars happen? Straight into Europe. You have, when America instigates these different wars, like the war in Iraq or the war in Afghanistan, you have these different European nations get dragged into it. And then look at this situation going on with Russia right now, the situation going on with Ukraine. You have the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, which is a major pipeline that these European nations get their natural gas from. And then Germany was working on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline with Russia. But when this whole situation with Ukraine really popped off, you had the Germans get bullied by the U.S. into cutting down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which just severely hampered the flow of those natural gas and oil to Europe. And hence, what are you seeing right now going on in Europe? An energy crisis, high energy prices, which is going to lead to a destabilization of these countries with people revolting against their governments. They've already got people taken to the streets and calling for their leaders being taken out of power. That's just another example to show that even America's own European allies are sick of her shit, and they're eventually going to turn against her and shoot those nukes onto her. I'm going to go back to the book of Obadiah. And of course, we can't forget, when America's allies don't want to play ball with America's dictates, what does America always threaten to do? Throw sanctions on them to further hamper their economic and political dealings with other nations. Hey, you can only bully somebody so long before they eventually, just turn around and kick the shit out of that bully. But this is back in Obadiah 1 verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. And a confederacy are your allies. So all your allies have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. And an example we can see right now are these European Edomite nations playing ball with the U.S. and putting sanctions on Russia and calling for an end to the war in Ukraine. While they're doing that, at the same time, a lot of these nations are doing backdoor dealings with Russia to continue to get natural gas and other resources from them, skirting those sanctions. Hey, they're deceiving the U.S. and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. These European NATO nations get all this funding from the U.S. to keep their militaries up and buy these weapons and create these arsenals. But they're going to lay a wound under the U.S. by using these very same nukes and other military weapons that they have and turn it against the U.S. when they ally themselves with Russia and other enemies of America. There is none understanding in him. Now I'm going to jump to Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, the 10 horns is speaking of the EU or European Union, beginning with the first 10 common markets of the EU, back when it was known as the European Economic Community. And the beast is NATO. These shall hate the whore that rideth upon many waters, that virgin daughter, Babylon the Great, the United States of America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, nuclear fire. But now I'm going to jump to Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to start at the top. The word that Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. And this Babylon right here is speaking of the Babylon we're living in today, that daughter of Babylon, the United States of America. And what's beautiful about this is that it said the words that were spoken by Jeremiah the prophet. We know that reincarnation is biblical, so Jeremiah is back here today in his stead prophesying against Babylon proper. Because back then he was told to prophesy against Babylon, and he was in the Neo-Babylonian captivity, and a lot of things he was saying he didn't understand because it wasn't speaking about that Babylon in the past. But now he's back here with the full understanding because he's in this Babylon that it's speaking about. Declare ye among the nations and publish, and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken. Bel is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. And this is a nation of witches and warlocks. A lot of the symbols and sayings and structures out here go back to these ancient gods. The Washington Monument is an obelisk. That award that those actors and actresses win at the Oscars goes back to an Egyptian god. What was his name? Slipping my mind right now. I can't remember his name, but it goes back to an Egyptian god. Just a lot of the different symbolisms out here go back to these ancient gods like Baal, Bel, Merodach, and all that. But we're living in the rulers of this country, the real puppet masters being the elites, went unto these different gods and demons and idols through their witches and warlocks and soothsayers to get an understanding of how to run this society. But since we're living in the last seconds of the rulership of this place, the Most High is taking away those left-handed spirits from them. So when their witches and warlocks and prognosticators go to get answers, they're not getting the answers back. They don't know what to do anymore. Which I'll jump back to Isaiah 47 real quick. This is Isaiah 47 verse 11. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thine enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, and the monthly prognosticators stand up, and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. The powers that be going to these different witches and warlocks, and them communing with these left-handed spirits to get answers on what moves to make next. Behold, they shall be as stubble, the fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor a fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto thee with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to his quarter, none shall save thee. So in the next verse it says, after going to these prognosticators and astrologers and witches and warcrafts, that they're going to be as stubble, as a fire, because they're going to get burned up too when these nuclear missiles hit this place. And like I was saying, the Most High has confounded these different gods and witches and warlocks. They're going to these left-handed powers to get answers, chiefly the spiritual demon Satan, but now they're not getting the answers like they used to before, so they don't know what to do. So that's why they're scrambling to try to quickly bring about that NW0, that fourth industrial revolution, that great reset. And as we can clearly see, they're being hella sloppy with it. A lot of people are seeing through their plans right now, calling them out on it. Bel is confounded, Merodach is broken in pieces, her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. And that's what I wanted to say. I was watching a video by the elder Yashawamba of the Dallas camp, where he was just going into some of the different idols and gods of America, and cross-dressing and transformerism, as we'll call it, that goes back to worshiping ancient gods. Because what do you see in this society? Women dressing like men and men dressing like women, which goes against the law, statutes, and commandments. A woman shall not wear that which pertaineth to a man, nor shall a man put on that which is clothing of a woman, roughly paraphrasing. You got women in the military, women wanting to be strong and independent, and you got a lot of these men wanting to be effeminate out here, soft and delicate metrosexuals, Well, when you go back to these ancient societies, in order to appease and give reverence to some of their gods, a woman would dress like a warrior to reverence, for example, Mars or the god of war, or a man would dress like a woman to reference Venus, Aphrodite. So they push these things out here as a normal lifestyle. Oh, it's okay for you to want to dress opposite your sex or even think you're not your right gender, but at the same time, there are strong powers that go behind it. They're really, without knowing it, giving reverence to these different gods out here, these ancient gods, which have been incorporated into the United States of America. And another thing, Planned Parenthood. What is that? Just modern day sacrifice to Molech. You bringing up your child as a sacrifice to these gods, because on the one hand, the powers that be get energy from those sacrifices, and then what do they do with those deleted fetuses? They sell a lot of those parts onto the black market for resources and stuff. But the Most High is breaking all these things down. As we can clearly see, this country is declining morally and economically and just as a whole. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her. And what's north of Babylon? The US, Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia. And I've done plenty of videos in the past showing that Russia shooting nuclear missiles across that Arctic Ocean region to hit targets in the US would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the US. And then also, Russia has been building up its military presence, nuclear included, in that Arctic Ocean region. And best believe they're going to shoot nuclear missiles from there as well. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. And they're going to make her land desolate by those nuclear missiles when they fire it onto her. And now I'm going to jump down to verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, Russia. Not only Russia's allies like China, Iran, and North Korea, but also America's allies that are going to turn against her at some point during World War III to ally themselves with Russia and shoot nukes onto her. Revelation 17 verse 16. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are symbolic for those nuclear missiles. Because what you have to remember is that when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they weren't going to say a Zircon hypersonic missile, a Sarmat Satan II missile, or an ICBM. They had to describe it the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Ancient weapons of war, like bows and arrows, spears, javelins, flying swords, you name it. And like I said a little earlier, in the first verse of Jeremiah chapter 50, it said Jeremiah was prophesying against Babylon, but he wasn't prophesying against the Neo-Babylonian Empire in the past. He was prophesying against the virgin daughter of Babylon today, the US. Hence why he described those nuclear missiles as arrows, because he didn't know what a nuclear missile was. But through the reincarnation, Jeremiah is back here today prophesying these words with complete understanding, because he's in the times that these prophecies spoke of. So when he reads the word missile or flying sword linked with fire and destruction, he knows it's talking about a nuclear weapon. Let me see where I want to go. All right, I'll keep going. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Yahweh, because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage. As it said back in Isaiah 47, they showed no mercy or pity upon the children of Israel. That's why this great judgment is coming your way, because you showed the children of Israel no mercy or pity. So you're going to receive no mercy or pity from the Most High. I'll jump to verse 33 real quick. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel, the northern kingdom or the so-called Latinos and Native Americans, and the children of Judah, the southern kingdom, so-called Negroes, were oppressed together. Where were they oppressed together in? The United States of America, Babylon the Great, because you have all 12 tribes here today. And all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall throughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. And he's pleading our cause right now. The prophets have been set up, and we're prophesying against this wicked society, being the spiritual prosecution team, saying, look, you've done all these wicked things, and this is going to be the judgment for it. And then the next thing that's going to come is the judgment from the judge. Nuclear missiles hitting this place, Yahushua making his second coming to save his elect, and also the chariots shooting that concentrated heat, or so-called laser beams, onto the U.S., further burning it up, disquieting the inhabitants of Babylon, these Americans, chiefly these Edomites. And you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans that don't want to get along with the program, and you still want to go into your enemy for help, Esau, Edom, and want to be a good American, you're going to be more fuel for the fire as well. You're going to get burned up by those nuclear missiles. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. And who's the mother of America? Great Britain, which the 13 colonies came out of. Even she's going to turn against you in that day and be a part of those nations that are going to shoot their nukes onto you. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. And what is America known as? The New World, the ends of the earth, the hindermost of the nations. Because when these European Edomites, these Spaniards and other colonizers started coming to this land, a lot of them thought they would fall off the earth because they thought that this was the end of the earth and that the world was flat. But clearly the earth is a globe. And what did they find? The Americas, the so-called New World. But as it says, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. And what's going to make this place wholly desolate and a wilderness? Those 200 million nuclear missiles that are going to destroy this place. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, these assembly of great nations unto the north country, all ye that bend the bow. And what do bows shoot? Arrows, symbolic for the launch platforms and silos that these missiles are going to be fired out of. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh. And when those 200 million nuclear missiles hit the United States of America, it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And I'm going to close it out in Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to start at 19. And Babylon, the virgin daughter of Babylon, the United States of America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did the Most High overthrow ancient Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire and brimstone from the sky. And besides being known as Babylon in the scriptures, the United States is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8. And it's easy to see why this place is known as spiritual Sodom. It's the #1 nation that pushes the alphabet lifestyle, beginning with LG, onto the rest of the planet. So the Most High is going to overthrow this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with modern fire and brimstone, those nuclear missiles. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. After this place is turned into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards, like I said earlier, after a time, only desert creatures are going to dwell here. Man, woman, or child is never going to set foot on this place ever again. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, her days shall not be prolonged. And we're living in the times of America's days no longer being prolonged and her judgment coming. And when everything's said and done, the former United States of America, that desolate, uninhabitable wasteland, is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the true children of Israel, who were again known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this lesson. And with this lesson, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from Babylon, the United States of America. So as always, I'm going to say, Abad Babal, Abad Babal, Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, Shalom.